Good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. How's it going? I'm Dr. Lindsay Huey, lead faculty for extremity management, along with Dr. Mark Gallant and Dr. Eric Chaconis. So happy to be with you all, as always, on a clinical Tuesday. I hope everybody's Tuesday is off to a rad start. Today, I'm going to be chatting with you about when the EBP triad falls short, specifically when it falls short for plantar heel pain care, and then show us how we ultimately can do better in this space. So we'll first review basically the patient profile of someone with plantar heel pain, review what the evidence says, what our best evidence says about care for these humans, and then I'm going to suggest a more inclusive fitness forward approach to plantar heel pain care. But before I do, let's chat a little bit about the remaining courses in 2022. I can't believe 2022 is almost over. Like, what the heck? Anyway, Mark and I have just a handful of courses, actually less than a handful, only four. So October 15th, 16th, Mark will be in Houma, Louisiana with Cody. And then November 5th, 6th, I'll be in Windsor, Colorado at CrossFit Indoor. That's my last course of the year. So come, we are filling up, and I can't wait to have more participants sign up for that. And then November 12th, 13th, Ames, Iowa with Mark and Cody again. And then finally, our last course of the year, November 19th, 20th, in Candler, North Carolina. We actually are sneaking a course in Bozeman too, but that course is already full Halloween weekend, which Mark and I are stoked about. It's the only once a year time that we get together and teach. So that should be pretty rad as well. We love seeing you all out on the road. So join us in the end of 2022. And if you can't, we have at least 2 or 3 courses that we're sending in January of 2023. So catch us then. So today's topic at hand. So briefly, before I get into what the evidence says about best plantar heel pain care, I just want to review, what does that human patient look like that has plantar heel pain? Well, we see it affects a spectrum of individuals, mainly the sedentary, but it also affects our runners. We see it being more prevalent in our females in particular. With that more sedentary individual, we tend to see links to multi-site pain, so pain throughout their body, increased BMI, and then just overall pain catastrophizing, especially in our more chronic and recalcitrant cases. And we tend to see these people in a more chronic stage in general. They are going to complain of first step pain in the morning, pain with prolonged weight bearing, and then after a prolonged rest period, they get up again, reinitiate gait. They're going to say, "Oh man, my heel hurts." Objectively, they will complain of tenderness to palpation at that medial calcaneus, and they'll often have pain with plantar flexion, toe off specifically in gait, and have some associated plantar flexion weakness. We also see problems locally in the following specific tissues in the foot: abductor hallucis and quadratus plantae. You'll often see some atrophy in these structures, and you'll see tenderness to palpation here as well. And these two structures are really important locally because they work synergistically to help in toe off. Specifically, abductor hallucis is that more superficial medial part of the foot. It serves as a dynamic arch support, and then that quadratus plantae serves to shorten the flexor tendons via its attachment to flexor digitorum. And so this enables propulsion in that stance to swing phase of gait. We also see in more chronic cases, not only can you have plantar flexor weakness, but you can have some dorsiflexor weakness and then toe flexor weakness. So these are just some common deficits. And then globally, a lot of times our hip abductors and posterior chain are weak in these individuals. So how do we help them? What is best physical therapy care here? So one of the most rigorous evidence-based guidelines we have, a best practice guideline, came out of BGSM. And this was in 2021. Morrissey and team from the British Journal of Sports Medicine put together this high-level systematic review where they only looked at high-level RCTs about plantar heel pain. They didn't restrict language, and they didn't restrict intervention, meaning they looked at every single intervention that under the sun for plantar heel pain. I know a lot of our patients know this as plantar fasciitis, so they searched under that term as well. And then what's most appropriately termed is plantar fasciopathy, as this is a disease ultimately of a tendon. And so, what's cool about this study, not only were they overall rigorous in and inclusive in the evidence that they gathered, but they also included expert opinion from seven PTs and seven podiatrists. So they interviewed them and asked them what's best treatment, what's best care for plantar heel pain. Now, they even took it a step further. So they also interviewed 40 patients with plantar heel pain with a range of time length in experiencing the condition. And so through thematic coding, they found a lot of themes in between the expert interviews and then the patient interview. And so what is so neat about this study is it was a mixed method in that you have this quantitative piece of all the RCTs being looked at, and then you have this qualitative piece of expert opinion, so clinical expertise, and then patient values, right? What is the patient vantage point? So we have all three pillars of that EBP triad. So I'm sitting here thinking, wow, this could not be a better freaking article, right? To tell us and lead us in our care for plantar heel pain. Or does it? So let me share what was found in this systematic review in 2021. So step one, for best care for plantar heel pain is taping. So taping to modulate pain, offload the plantar fascia, and then stretching, plantar fascia stretching. So these are our top line defense in managing this condition when we looked at both the quantitative and qualitative aspects. Plus, a key part of care would be education, specifically education on footwear advice, pain education, education in load management. So, thinking about the difference between someone more sedentary versus an active individual, how that will be a little bit different. But overall, in both of those extremes, educating on how to unload tissues for a time to decrease symptom irritability and then help them gradually return to function. And again, primary intervention being taping, education on footwear, and self stretching. We see in these humans a lot of times they have increased BMI and unhealthy metabolic factors on board. So for those humans, we also see that educating them about weight loss and then on just generally how they can manage metabolic factors better is also a primary strategy, or what this article called core treatment for these humans. The education also includes breaking up static loads, so not performing static sitting or standing for a prolonged period, but breaking that up so that when you first get walking again, those steps don't hurt as bad. A little bit of education on the etiology of plantar heel pain, and then reassurance for movement. This is a compilation, again, of quantitative RCT level evidence, experts in the field, podiatrists and PTs, and then patient perspective. Team, I'm going to say that this education is decent at best, and this frontline care, again, decent at best. And if that doesn't work in 4 to 6 weeks, what I just outlined, then step two, the article says, go for extracorporeal shockwave therapy if it's not resolved in 4 to 6 weeks. This is our best evidence. This is what we have in 2021. And I cannot be more disappointed and miffed by this being our strategy. How do we make local and surrounding and proximal tissues resilient in the foot and ankle and then the hips if that's all we're doing, right? If we're stretching locally, taping, and then our end stage, if it doesn't work, is extracorporeal shockwave therapy. This is such a bummer, and we can do better. And I believe this is why so many cases go on to being recalcitrant, right? Meaning they go on for years and years and years because we're not addressing this well. And I just want to highlight too, one of the conclusions. So you didn't hear me say strength anywhere, right? Strength and resilience of the tissues. The one or two sentences addressing strength say this, and I'm going to read it verbatim because it's so disappointing. While there is moderate evidence for stretching the plantar fascia, our stringent systematic review could not identify evidence in favor of more comprehensive exercise approaches. Furthermore, the expert interviews did not provide a theme on hidden efficacy and was divided on whether such resistance exercises are useful or not. Trials currently in development may clarify this issue in the future, and they alluded to a trial that's going to happen that's currently in progress in regards to plantar fasciopathy and loading. I'm sorry, team, it's not enough because this review was missing a systematic review from 2016 that looked at strengthening for the plantar fascia and intrinsic foot musculature, and it was missing one of our robust RCTs from 2014, Rathlet et al. And I checked this reference page multiple times. I'm like, is this seriously missing? Right? It had our clinical practice guideline from 2014, but it didn't have these two articles. And they're pretty major when we think about looking at strength and resilience of local tissues. And even though that systematic review from 2016 from Huffer et al. And team, and I'm happy to link the DOI for anyone interested, while it didn't shake out that we can say intrinsic foot muscle strengthening improves function and pain, it should at least be considered, right? When we're thinking about the health and resilience of our tissue. And the Rathlet et al., we get into that protocol in our course, so please come if you want to learn more. But basically, this is a progressive exercise protocol where we're doing high load strengthening specific to the plantar fascia. And when they looked, this was a long-term study. They looked at 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and 12-month time points. And while this article found 3 months to be that sweet spot in seeing change and no difference in the others, again, why wouldn't we have this included in our best practice, at least to be considered? While I love the the inclusivity of the RCT level evidence in the systematic review, including patient values and clinical expertise in the Morrissey 2021 guideline, it does not speak to the nature of building up tissues, the nature of building up a human and their ecosystem. And so, where this EBP triad falls short and leaves gaps, the fitness forward pillars are going to rise to the occasion. And so, I want to briefly unpack what that looks like. Fitness forward care for plantar heel pain looks like so. And it follows our core values, which is fitness forward, manual therapy skilled, and psychologically informed. Fitness forward for this humans has to be education on sleep, has to be education on getting that 7 to 9 hours. Diet, right? Eating more plants, eating less inflammatory and processed foods, eating enough protein that supports activity and healing, hydrating our body, half our body weight in ounces, right? You team, if you've been to an ice course, you know about these ecosystem considerations. But thinking about the person with plantar heel pain that's in chronic pain and a chronic underlying inflammation, they have to have these conversations to move the needle. And then education on strategies to reduce BMI and reduce associated sedentary behaviors. We also need to be fitness forward in our approach to build up not only local tissues through plantar fascia heel raises, short foot activation, toe yoga, but we also need to be considering global ankle foot strengthening around the ankle foot, and then moving up the chain and going after squats and deadlifts, things that are going to work on that posterior lateral hip. And then finally, if we're going to load well, right, in a fitness forward way, energy storage and release. We have to restore the tensile loading ability of the plantar fascia, right? If we want to run up the steps because we're in a hurry, we need to equip the plantar fascia to do that. So, fitness forward care is not just those conversations about ecosystem, but it's how we load locally, how we load globally, and how we load the whole human to make that tissue more resilient. It also includes manual therapy, which won't surprise you, right? That manual therapy skilled piece. And for the plantar heel pain, we're going to go after some of the most common deficits we see, which we see limitations in talocrural mobility, specifically in that posterior glide. So we're going to get after that. We're also going to be very inclusive in looking at midfoot and lateral tibial glide because we want these humans squatting pain-free and we don't want those being a limiting factor. So we'll both evaluate and address them if they're limited. We'll use soft tissue massage, myofascial decompression, needling to the gastric soleus, abductor hallucis, quadratus plantae, right? To modulate symptoms, to ultimately maximize fitness by adding load, right? And then we're not going to stop there. Whatever helped in that session, we're going to give them an HEP follow up that matches it to further maximize the modulating window of opportunity, right? And then finally, right? So we have fitness forward, we have manual therapy skilled. That psychologically informed piece is so key here. That move the needle conversation, that meets the human at their story and educates on stress management, on mindset. These are the conversations. These are the pillars upon which we need to stand when we're considering plantar heel pain. Fitness forward foot care always looks different. And by different, I mean better. It's going to look like modulating pain via manual therapy and needling, myofascial decompression, whatever your state allows, that is local to those tissues. Yes, we might use taping and orthotics as a temporary therapeutic tool to deload tissue, but then we're ultimately going to go after local and global tissue loading. We are going to train the fascia not just for heavy, slow, strict strength, but we're also going to train it for energy storage and release for full return to all function, whether that's just walking up and down the steps quickly or going for a run. And we're going to have ecosystem consideration conversations from the beginning that promote fitness only always. I challenge you all, read the evidence, right? But don't forget about that fitness forward piece. Get after fitness forward healthcare in the foot in a better way. If you want to learn more about that fitness forward plantar heel care, please come to a course with Mark and I soon. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for letting me wrap on something I'm passionate about. Happy Tuesday.